So we started a new folder, a new project, hamburger menu. We created all of the folders that we need, all of the files that we need, app.js, index.js, main.js. So in our index.js, we created a default HTML boilerplate, and all that we've added so far is our header. So I'm going to remove all of these things and start it afresh so that we can see how it works. So I'm going to remove all of them straight to the header, but I will leave. So I already have my CSS linked here. I have my JavaScript linked here. The next thing I want to do is to start adding the stuff that I'm supposed to be adding. So the first thing I want to do is to create a header. Now this header is going to sort of like have a class, have a container in it that will contain the navigation bar. So I have a div right here, and I'm going to call this div, give it a class name, and I'll call that div a container. So the next thing I want to do is to have my nav. So this nav, I'll also give it a class name, and I will call it navbar. So class, I will say nav bar. Good. So if I'm done with that, let's start having what we want to have in the navbar. So the first thing I want to have, most of these things I'm going to copy and paste. So I've already done this project before, just copying and pasting them. So the next one I want to have there is a navbar, the logo. So for the logo, I try as much as possible. So I went to Google and searched for Google's logo and copy the image link. That's what I'm pasting in this SRC folder that I have here. So I'm pasting the image link in the SRC folder. So the next thing I want to do is to do it for the UL. So I'm going to, all of the items that should be in the UL, I'm going to copy all of that. So I already have that typed in, but I'm going to type this again. A quick overview, I'm going to type that again. So for this, I will give it a class of, so let me call this a class of nav. So I'm going to call this nav menu. I'm going to give this nav menu. Then inside of it is where I'm going to have my LIs. So I have my LIs in it. The first LI, which is going to be have a class of nav. So I'll call it nav item. So nav item. So in it is where I'm going to have the links, the link itself. So an anchor tag, I'm going to link this to nothing. And then inside of here, first of all, this anchor tag should have a class of nav link. So not that the class name really matters, but we just want to, for easy styling. So we're going to have nav link as this, and then I'm going to say home here. So I'm going to copy this a few more times. So I'm holding shift and alt, and then I'll press down arrow to go down. It will copy all of them downward. Then I'll change what I want to have here. So I want to have about us here. So let me do the same thing by copying this down. Shift alt down. I'm doing it again. So I have it like 3 times. So I'm going to change this to contact us or our services. Let's change this to our services. Then the last one will be contact us. Contact us. So we're kind of done with that. Let's run this and see. So stop. I'm going to close this, go live. So this is what it looks like right now. Remember, we've linked our CSS and everything, so we've done this Navbar. What we want to do is, let's also work on the hamburger, or before that, let's style the Navbar properly. So I'm coming to main.css and I'm going to do my universal selector. I will say margin 0, padding 0, text decoration will be none. What else do I have to do? I'll also have to do list style as well. Set that to none. Let's save and see the results. So this is what we have. So let's start displaying items flex. So the first thing we want to do is to select our navbar. So I'm going to say .navbar, .navbar. I'm going to say display flex. Let's see. Okay, this is what we have now. I'm going to say justify content space between. Good. The next thing I want to do is I want to say align item center. Save and see. Good. The next thing we want to do is we want to say padding. Top and bottom should be 0 for now. Left and right should be around, let's say, 14 pixels. The reason for this is to create space here and here. So save, and you can see we have some space here. So we can increase that number if we're not satisfied with that. So what we also want to do is we want to give this navbar a background color. So I'm going to say cornflower blue. So this is what cornflower blue looks like. The next thing I want to do is, this image is quite too big. Let's reduce the image size. How did we do that? So I'm going to say .logo. I'm going to give .logo a width. .logo, and I'm going to say width of, let's start with 3 rem for now and see the results. So absolutely 3 rem will not give us anything. Then what we need to do is to select the image itself. So go straight to the image .logo a. Is that the image? No, img. I will say width of 100%. So this will force it to take the width of whatever the size of that container is. So we can now increase the size of the container to however we want it to be. I think this is okay for now. Then the next thing we want to do is our nav links are not displaying properly. So let's select that by, so we call that nav menu. Or what we can do is, so let's say navbar ul. So we can select it by doing .navbar ul, and we're going to say display flex. So that should flex it. Then we're also going to do a few things with that. We're going to say gap, for example. Let's say 4 rem and see what this does. So this is what 4 rem does. We are creating a gap between those items. So remember we did padding 0, 14 pixels. I'm not okay with that. So I'm going to change this to rem, for example. So 1 rem, for example, and see what this does. So 1 rem is quite small. I can increase that to around 3 and see that. So this is what 3 rems looks like. I think I'm okay with this. Now remember, so we did not do padding top and bottom. We say padding top and bottom should be 0. So let's give that a figure so that our navbar will have some kind of space at the top and bottom. So we have a navbar like this. The next thing we want to do is we want to make this text to be white. So we know how to do that. I just want to add some beauty to this project. So to do that, we have to go to the E tag by selecting nav ul and straight to E. You can actually experiment and do a lot of things. It's not that this is the right way to go, or I mean, not that this is the default way to go. You can use several ways to fix it. So I'm going to say color for this, and I'm going to make this white. So that's white. The next thing I want to do is let's make that font bold a little bit. Font width bold. So that's bold. The font style, let me change the font family to something. Let's try this. No, I don't like this. So I'm going to say I prefer this Helvetica. So I doubt if you would have this font in your computer. If not, you can go ahead and download it. So we have this set up already. Now what we want to do is when we inspect the page and we come to mobile design, we want these nav bars to be hidden. You can see that the nav bar is still there. We want it to be hidden and we want our logo to come out. So how we're going to fix that is, first of all, let's set up our nav, the bars, what we need to click on to change, to perform those functions. So I already created this there. I use this div and I'm adding bars to it. So I'm just going to copy this just to save our time and paste it right here. So in CSS, we're going to make this to become bars. So we'll just come straight to CSS where we have the bars. So let's look at the bar. So we said display block. Let's copy that as well. So we already, first of all, the hamburger. But meanwhile, let's come over here and put that for our bar. So display block for the bar. The width for the bar is 25 pixels. The height is 3 pixels. The margin is 5 pixels. Auto web. So WebKit, this is a transition that we're using. So this is sort of new. Then we have another transition here. So when we are doing animations, these transitions are very useful. So what this does is when we click on that hamburger menu, the nav bar should not just pop out, like appear like a ghost. There should be a sort of animation to it, like it should come slowly to the screen, like a motion effect. So that's what the transition is all about. So the next thing we want to do here is we want to make this to be display none in the big screen. So in the big screen, our hamburger, which is this guy, which is the container, should be none. So we're going to say dot hamburger display none cursor pointer. Let's save this. The next thing we want to do is to make it be